needs no introductions, literally none. I need not have even bothered to write an introduction for him, or about his body of work, but that wouldn't be professional, would it? He's one of the most charismatic men in the dissident and freedom movement. He's the founder and lead correspondent of the Unity News Network. He is a peace activist, a very underrated peace activist, who promotes debate and dialogue in a world gone stark raving mad. His up-and-coming documentary, called BBC A Licence to Lie, exposes the corruption of the BBC and urges the public to boycott the absurd BBC television licence. Does that sound like a good idea? Boycott the BBC TV licence once and for all! I'm proud to say that I wore his promotional t-shirt for the documentary, which was shown to a large audience via a failed anti-white hit piece on PA and other decent people, which Laura touched upon. We just know him as the Emperor himself. Please give a warm welcome to David Clews.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much to James for the warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't get asked to speak many places often, so I just tend to say yes when I do. But you know, we're constantly hearing about diversity in this country and how good diversity is. And being here at PA, the diversity that I've seen so far is unbelievable. So far, I have met an anti-Semite, an Islamophobe, a xenophobe, a homophobe, a transphobe, and a far-right anti-vax conspiracy theorist. And that's just Mark Collett. Anyways, it's a pleasure to be here. So I'll tell you a bit about my background and what led me to be here today. So I was always quite political from quite a young age. I think it's safe to say when I was in my teens, I was somewhat right of centre in my politics. But I sort of toned it down a bit, which was a stupid move, really. You know, it's funny because I said that to Mark. I remember seeing Mark from the documentaries about the BNP and Nick Griffin as well, and the work that the BNP did. And, you know, it's interesting for me because I think it's safe to say I come from a family where those kind of views were not frowned upon. You know, I'm not saying they were encouraged, but I just came from a typical west of Scotland, what I would call a unionist, loyalist family, you know, that loved this country and supported the royals. And obviously times have changed now, but that was my upbringing. Then I joined the Conservative Party when I was about 23, 24, and I actually got elected as a Conservative councillor back in, 2007. And, you know, I kind of look back at that time and think, you know, really it wasn't that bad. Politics wasn't great, but it wasn't the insanity now. And then I'm going to be honest with this 100% a true story. So I was a young councillor, and I had my life ahead of me, but I didn't like it. I didn't feel true to myself. There was, even when I used to go to Conservative Party dinners and events, these people are horrible, right? They just are. They're horrid people. Most of them are just there because they want a job, or they're there because they're a business person and they want to improve their business. And what they've all got dirt on each other. They've all got blackmail on each other. They're horrible people. So back in 2010, actually, and I'm open about this, I had a nervous breakdown and things were bad. And I then sort of got myself together and I fell out with, you remember Ruth Davidson, the leader of the Scottish? So I fell out with Ruth Davidson. I never liked her. And I fell out and I thought, what's the best way to get back at them? So I joined the Labour Party to to get back at them. And it was quite interesting because, again, even back then in 2010, the Labour Party aren't what they have since become. I mean, not saying they were perfect, but it was mostly men. They were working class. They wanted a better place. But then obviously I've been on this journey and the big things, and Laura talks about the events in your life. I think the first major cataclysmic event that happened was Trump. Now, I know Trump is a disappointment and I've totally gone off him. But if you remember back to 2015, when Trump first took to the stage, and it looks more like an act, but he was talking about what you would say were white nationalist talking points. He was railing against NATO. He was talking about the way America had gone wrong. What did build the wall mean? It meant secure America as a white future. So that was huge. And then the Brexit vote as well. And I saw what happened with Brexit was that the establishment, the people that were in charge, tried to overturn a democratic vote. And then that steadily moved forward. And then in 2017, I saw, well, the media here is just so biased. They've lost any pretense. I mean, the media was always liberal left, but they lost all pretense. And I founded UNN. And the first big thing, and I know he's maybe not the flavour of the room, but it was the jailing of Tommy Robinson. And that was a huge moment, when he was jailed at the time. And, I'm not going to get into about him and what he represents and who he is. But for the wider populace, it was a huge moment. And again, the media were just lying. They were making stuff up, and people started thinking, well, what's going on here? And then we covered that. And then the next big story we really covered at UNN was the Jeffrey Epstein, when he was rearrested again. And we were really one of the first to talk about what Jeffrey Epstein was, who he represented. He represented spy agencies, CIA, Mossad, and an international child sex trafficking, paedophile blackmail ring. And again, you see, well, what is going on here? Like, these people are using paedophilia as a tool to control people and get them to behave and act in a certain way. And as I said, that led up then to March 2020 with COVID and what happened at COVID. And it blindsided so many people. I mean, I was taken in by it at the start. I'm sure many people here were also taken in by it because it was just this bombardment of like, what the heck is going on? And then just steadily as it went on, the whole veneer of it started to wear off. Like, were there really people collapsing in China? Were there? And then the vaccine rollout came. And it's just this amazing now that if they or the government said there is a new vaccine, people would laugh. We would all laugh at them now. And I think that is a good thing that people have gone on that journey. And then really in the last 2 years as well, that we've really covered at UNN and leads us to this point is the ongoing climate change scam, which is it's a scam. Like, it's not real. The climate naturally changes, but these people are deliberately lying, saying that it is mankind responsible for it, that if we don't give all our money to Africa, we're going to die of climate change. It's a hoax and a shakedown. And then the big, huge one as well that we've really focused on and spoken about and got into is the war in Ukraine, which is just, it is horrific what is going on in Ukraine. And I understand that within nationalist circles there was a bit of a debate and an analysis of it due to historical events. But, I mean, you look at what is really going on there is, once again, it is white Europeans killing each other on the battlefield for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And it is people that have no morals and principles and are prepared to send these young men out to die. And then that then sort of leads you to the question, well, how Clews have you ended up here talking to a group of people like yourselves at Patriotic Alternative? And unfortunately, I've come across the early life section of Wikipedia. I can't stop looking. I'm only joking. Yeah, it's interesting. Pattern recognition, seeing things that are taking place, and you just really start, what is going on here? And it's funny because I think most people kind of get there's something going on. Like they realize that they're not being told the truth. They realize that they're being bombarded constantly with propaganda, and they're looking at who is benefiting from this, what kind of peoples that are benefiting from this. And I mean, there's a lot of people benefiting from it. There's people who do it because they have an ideological perspective or an ethno-religious perspective. And then there's other people who just have no morals whatsoever. You know, they would sell crack cocaine to children to make money. And so what we really do at UNN is try as best as we can to represent what I call the dissident movement. And what is the dissident movement? I mean, the dissident movement is obviously someone that has politics that would be considered on the right. Because if you're a left-winger or you believe in all these things, you get covered in the mainstream media. If you're a Remain supporter, you get it. So we try and get as broad a spectrum as possible. People who would call themselves nationalists, people who would call themselves freedom fighters, and understand amongst people there can be a frustration. Like if people say, well, it's the World Economic Forum that's behind it, or it's the Illuminati that's behind it, and I'm just kind of trying to be quite tolerant, because they may not reach the same conclusions, but they recognize that there is a glitch in the matrix, and that it is not what they seem. And people have to go on a journey. As I've said, we are always on a constant journey, and people are always moving to certain places. But that's a bit about UNN. But I want to talk as well about again, why I'm here. I mean, I'm a Christian, and I believe that this should be a Christian nation. And thank you. Christian values to me are very important, but I'm also white, and I'm proud to be white, and that's not a controversial thing to say, that I'm proud to be a white person. Yeah, you are made to feel utterly ashamed of saying that, and that you're just the most evil person in the world, when it's perfectly natural. Like you go to any other country in the world, out with the Anglosphere or the West or whatever we want to call it, people will agree with that. They will recognize that and I know this is a basic example, if you go to Japan, you expect there to be a Japanese president. If you go to Gambia, you expect there to be a Gambian president. That's not remotely controversial. And you look at the United Kingdom and the type it is as a country, and as I said, from a Christian perspective, I am just utterly appalled at the moral collapse of this country. It is a collapse. Let's be under no doubt about it. And I always talk, like, people get very upset, like, when you make a statement, but we have to have ideals. And what is an ideal? In this country, the ideal was that you were a man, you met a woman, you got married, you had children, the children were brought up as Christians. And that's how it was. And you know what? On the whole, things were okay. Now, obviously, not everyone then adhered to that ideal. Some people had to leave their husbands, some people had to leave. But you have to have an ideal, and you have to have good moral values. And that's one thing, I did say that to Mark and everyone at PA at the time. PA led the charge against the despicable drag queen story hours that were happening in schools. And I said at the time that I will support people who have the guts to get up and do that, because that you're not only spitting in the four faces of natural law, you're spitting in God's face. It is disgust. It's an abomination. That is an abomination, teaching children that this is natural behavior. It is not natural behavior. And these deviant lifestyles that are now promoted as normal, it is deviant behavior. People living in thruples and polyamorous relationships do you know? And I know what people go on about, but see at night, see when I almost cry thinking that there's children out there and they're getting their genitals chopped off. It is so disgusting. Young girls getting double mastectomies at age 16. Young boys, girls getting a fake penis grown out of their clitoris. Do you know how disgusting that is? And how sick that is? And what I don't get is why aren't they, oh well, if that's what they want to do to make them happy, it's never going to make you happy. It's disgusting. These people have suicide rates at 44%. It's disgusting, and people should stand up and speak against that from not only a moral perspective, but from the position of natural law as well. And that then leads me on to a question about this is so important, and this is something that really, really worries me. We talk a lot about demographic change, but it's what are we doing about it, okay? Can I ask how many people here have children? Can you raise your hands? See if I'd have been here, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. 100 years ago, everyone would have raised their hand. And I say this is so important to young people. Go out and have children, okay? Now, I'm not preaching here saying that I'm perfect. I'm a sinner. I'm as low as everyone else. My granddad had his first child when he was 18, you know. They lived in a room and kitchen. They had 11 children, and 2 of them died. You know, and then he went off and fought in the war. Now, I'm not like my granddad, but, you know, I'm 41 now, and I look at what I was sold and what they sell young people. Well, you know what? Go to school and then go on a gap year and then do 4 years at university and then do another 2 years or whatever. And you've got this situation where people are getting into their late 30s and early 40s, and they've not or can't have children. Now, and I know it's a very upsetting topic and it's hard for people to talk about, but I'm just telling you all right now, and if you're young guys, go out there, meet someone, get married, have kids. You'll be happy. Because here's the other thing that we've lost sight of. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about something greater. And this narcissism that is taught to people that you're the center of the universe, that's fine when you're a child. See when you hit 18, that should all stop. You know, it really should. And look, I've been kind of guilty of it myself. So I'm saying this from my own learned experience. I got married when I was what age was it? 31. And I thought that was really, really old. But it's not now. It's not. And, you know, thankfully my wife's having another baby as well, which is good news. You know, but any of you guys that have a wife knows it's not bloody easy, you know, because there's a woman involved in it. So it is never going to be easy, and it's never going to be great, but it is a bit about making sacrifice. And you know, the thing is, it's not only here. You look at countries like South Korea, Japan. South Korea's got a birth rate of 0.8 children per week. It's collapsing. And and the thing is as well, people say, well, we can't afford it. Now, I understand that, but your parents didn't think that about you. Okay, your parents valued you. So, look, if you're too old to have children, it is what it is. If you can't, then it is what it is. But if you can, please go out and it'll make you happy, because what you tend to find is if people get married young, they have children, they become much more conservative. If you're 54 and living in a rented house somewhere in London with eight or nine other people, you're not going to have conservative mindsets. And that's where, you know, and I'm just speaking here personally. I'm not saying this what PA should do or anyone, but it is about creating a family culture, a happy moral culture where people can thrive and survive, because you are happier. Like, that's the thing you've got to realize about these people, all these people out there. If you were happy, you wouldn't have to run about in the streets caked with makeup waving a rainbow flag. You just live your life. It's a lie. They are selling a lie to people. Happiness comes from within, and being with family and being with people that you like and people that you love. And as I say, this infantilized society that we now have, And I mean, I could go on for hours. Feminism, what that's done, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I read a lot about that. People, the shallowness and the emptiness of their lives. Well, I'm going on a mini break this week. Well, is that really what life's all about? A mini break, a spa weekend? Is it really? It is about struggle, and it is about hardship, and it is enjoying the struggle and hardship. And it's not going to be easy, but it is so important that everybody keeps going, because the way I look at it is, at least if we don't win in this lifetime, your children or your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews, they will get victory, because that's what we all have to fight for. So thanks very much for your time.